7:01, and we have a full quorum, so we'll get the meeting going. And we will start with opening prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for tonight. God, we thank you for the journey we've had so far. We are already almost halfway through this year, God. Lots have happened. Lots is yet to be done. We pray for our council, God, that you give them wisdom, God, that you give them fortitude, God, that you help them to see what needs to be done, help them to get things done cooperatively. And we pray, God, for our community. God, as summer has come, we pray, God, for people to take a rest, for people to put their eyes on the future, for celebrations that are coming this month, such as graduation. And God, we just pray for your blessings to continue to come to St. George. We pray for all the changes that are coming, God. We pray for our council, for them to be heard. We pray for favor in Fredericton's halls, God. And we pray for things to go according to your plan and to the best for each of our residents. We put tonight's meeting in your hands and ask that you be here with us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda for June 13th, 2022.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4 is approval of minutes of previous council meetings. And we start with approving the minutes of regular meeting of council May the 9th. Unless there are any questions, I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2 is 4B is closed door meeting of the council, May 17, 2022. Any questions? Motion, please.
I'll move. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
4C, special meeting of council, May 30th, 2022. Approval of minutes. A motion, please. Or any questions? Are there questions? No? Okay. Motion, please.
I'll make the motion for the special meeting of council on May 30th, 2022.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And last, on the item 4, approval of meetings, is approval of minutes of the closed door meeting of council June 8, 2022. Any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we go to the conflict interest declaration, in case I guess people watch us on TV and they saw three closed door meetings. It's important to know that matters that relate with personnel developments are by their nature closed door meetings. So they do not reflect that we in any way we are conducting meetings that pertain to our town closed meetings, but meetings which are bound by confidentiality, like personnel matters, must be done in a closed door meeting. And after saying that, I'm moving to item number 5, conflict of interest declarations. Any conflict to be declared? No conflicts noted. Delegations. We don't have any delegations. So we move on to item number 7, general reports. And we start with the general government report. Jason.
Thank you, Your Worship. For general government reports, for paving, paving has been completed for Marsh Lane, Birch Lane, Armstrong Crescent, Kennedy Court, and part of the central Carlton Street as well. We would like to thank the residents for their patience during this time. Certainly a lot of issues with traffic and such, and dust, and certainly apologize for that, but know that work is completed. Also in relation to paving, road patches, straw and paving, we completed 2 major patch works on Brunswick Street at the entrance to the grocery store and in front of the Granite Court apartment building. Some additional patch work is expected to be complete over the next month, and that'll just be some light patch work and some potholes. Development and housing, as of on the agenda for tonight, there's a rezoning for an 8-unit apartment building to be built, and that's at the corner of Carlton and School Street. And we did receive back, CBCL has returned a report on drainage study for Hillside subdivision that has been sent to the Service Commission, and I believe going to PRAC next as well. So hopefully moving along with that subdivision project. Canal Beach, we are still in a waiting period on having the concrete poured for the canteen and washroom. Certainly, again, we'd like to thank residents for their patience during this time. The well was drilled last week. We have received provincial approval on the retaining wall as well, so that will commence. And I'd like to say that there's just one easy answer of why we're delayed, but it's been a mixture of timelines, permits, and I guess some just renewed focus on getting that work done. The walking trail, we did receive a permit for approval for the Wall permit. This is for the new Coastal Link Trail, and that is expected to start before the end of the month. And Coastal Link Trail will be running on the old former rail line. Moving ahead with that. Crosswalks and traffic lines were repainted over the last month as well. We had the same company that was doing our street lining, did our crosswalks while they were in town as well. So and just to give an update, I know we were looking at typically doing it ourselves. We still have not received any word on a paint supply, so we'd still be waiting if we wouldn't have gotten that work done. BIA funds, so for the closure of the BIA for St. George, we did receive some additional garbage receptacles for Main Street and are waiting on receiving a couple new planters and benches on Main Street as well. The groundwater and that's the Goody study. So CBCL Engineering has completed work under review and will be submitting to the province over the next month. I have a call for that this week to go over the details of that study. JO Spinney Drive, as part of the regional recreation cost sharing, some improvements are being made here at JO Spinney Drive, as well as Macadavic. We are looking at basketball courts improvements with new backboards, baseball field, new foul poles, and numbering and plates, and some new equipment here in the Macadavic Center, likely a overhead projector, for example. So still utilizing those funds. Pickleball tennis courts, an application was submitted to the province for funding, and we're still waiting for approval. I did speak to the pickleball group today and just let them know that we haven't received any update at this point. Community garden, Amanda, who's been sort of taking the lead on doing some work at the community garden, she's gotten some volunteers together, garden fences being erected around the planters, and a porta potty was installed over there as well. St. Mark's and First Community Cemetery, so that's a cemetery that's on Main Street, the old Loyalist Cemetery. So we did receive approval. We put in an application, received approval for $5,000 to complete the phase 3 of the restoration on this cemetery. So that will pretty much finish up that cemetery. We may have a few other minor things to do, but it's sort of a restoration nearly completed. Splash pad, 2 new picnic tables were purchased for the splash pad area. We're just sorting out, there's once in a while there seems to be one fixture that doesn't work. We're just sort of working with the manufacturer on that. Everything is under warranty, so we want to work the bugs out now. Day of Interest Center, 6 of the 7 buildings have been assigned to tenants. Those tenants will be there until November. The gazebo Main Street shingling and roofing was completed in May. And we certainly want to bring to attention that we ask people not to remove flowers from any of the parks, digging up flowers. Certainly they were planted there for the community. We have had some flowers being removed from some of the flower beds at the gazebo park. the wait continues for a number of applications. One, the industrial park expansion, the IBA application. That's for exploration of a new well and doing an EIA for a third lagoon. Still waiting on that. We're still waiting for funding information on the Riverview water line, and we're still waiting for a quote on the lower sewage installation work. And I just received something from them today asking for updated drawings. So it seems like you ask a question, update on the quote, and it's a couple weeks goes by. Time capsule, we're still looking at putting a time capsule together in the downtown area to commemorate the end of the town's corporation this year with the reform. This town will be hiring one new full-time labor operator starting June the 27th. There may be a need for one more depending on certainly a status that's come due in July. And for summer students, we're expecting at least 2 summer students to start on June the 27th as well. Leonard Lee, the head of Public Works, he, as some are aware, he is retiring at the end of this month. He will be retiring after being with us since 1986. And just a note as well, he was the fire chief for St. George from 88 to 2011. So we'll be doing some sort of a send-off to him, and I think there's something on the agenda there for tonight as well. Residents' complaints. Someone camping on the Marsh Trail. We've been trying to address that one. Speeding on Main Street. We do once again remind residents that the speed limit on Main Street is 35 kilometers an hour. It seems to be those signs keep getting missed. And there was a child injured with fiberglass hydrant markers. These are markers that are on fire hydrants or like a pole. Typically they're steel. There's a few fiberglass ones that were out there. And we had a child grab one of those, and really when they get sun-dried, they splinter. So we did put it out to the works crew to remove all the rest of those that are in the town as well. So we just had one that was missed, and things like that happen. I think that is it for the general government report.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The drawings that you mentioned are for the sewer line under the bridge. Who is asking the drawings?
It's the company that does that's going to do the work. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they've asked that from the engineer that we had, that DTI had requested us to have to put the staging on the bridge. So I gave the go-ahead for that this morning.
We already had a quote from them, right?
We did. This will be the 3rd updated quote. We've had the first original one, some time passed. We got another one. Of course, things keep going up with price of fuel and everything else. So once we have this updated one, then we'll have to make a decision then what we're going to do. We want to act fairly quickly. We have the permission from DTI to do the work on the bridge and shutting the bridge down for a period of time. It just would have to, make sure that the quote is within what it originally was.
Okay. And the other thing is, I noticed on Mount Pleasant, they start doing patchwork.
Yes.
How that relates with our application to actually repave it?
That's their typical seasonal work that they do for patchwork.
So there is one case of the left hand and not talk to the right one?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. And you'll even see they patched over some of our own line work that we did at crosswalks and everything. So,
Okay.
They have a job to do, and that's what they're trying to do.
Okay. No other question?
What about the wall that down in front of Dennis Hall's? It's starting to really tip more. Are we looking into that to see?
We haven't at this point, no. But it is something that's out there. Yeah. We haven't had any issues where the stones are falling, but certainly we can look at that.
And the paving that they did out in front of there also, is that going to be fixed with the?
Not as of right now. We did much of the patchwork. I mean, our guys may be doing a bit of a patch in that area to smooth it out, but to rip it back up and to redo it, that would have been done with the last group that we had.
And the same with Latte Road then? That's not going to be fixed where the manhole covers are? It's starting to sink down in there again also?
Yeah, we will have to do a small patchwork there as well.
Okay.
Right, yeah. To mobilize an actual paving company to do that. No, we'll just probably do some of the work ourselves.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
How long do we have to do this for?
Until Labor Day weekend. So that's usually around, about 10 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, we are moving on to item 7B, update on local government reform. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. So nothing really new to report. There's been really any meetings. They're doing just some staff, preparing to put staff in roles into different positions, and that's sort of where it's at right now. I believe there's some meetings scheduled for maybe next week with the committees, but sort of it has been no committee meetings at this point.
Okay. Anybody has a question about the local government reform?
I do have one little one. I noticed in your report, Jason, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I noticed that it says CAO interviews have been completed. Would that be for your own position? Is that what that is?
It would be for the CAO position for Eastern Charlotte, yes.
Okay. And we'll move on with the fire report. Chief.
Okay, so first thing you'll notice is May had a few less calls than April, which is normal. I think it's safe to say now that grass fire season is over. Not to say that we can't have forest fires, because as things dry out, forest fires are a different beast altogether. And we did have a couple of them in May, but that was earlier in the month. On that note, I will say that around town, within close proximity to town, the number of grass fires was almost zero this year, which is completely unheard of. So kudos to the community for that, and hopefully that trend continues. We weren't at zero overall, probably never will be, because not all of them are intentional, but the numbers are trending the way they should be, and I've been noticing that for a couple of years, so thank you. We had a couple of structure fires, actually both on the same night, basically. One at night, one in the morning, so that was a busy weekend. And then one of them was really not accessible. It was a camp, and we were able to get in with the 3/4 ton and put firewood around it to make sure it didn't get going through the woods, but the camp ended up just had to burn. So we got called back to it because we let it finish burn. I guess that's the highlights as far as what we had for fires and incidents. Training, firefighter Ian Lee completed his CISM trainings, which is critical incident stress management training, and that's a step towards, I think Ian has some interest in working with the first responders peer support group that we have around the local area. So kudos to Ian for stepping up and doing that training. Equipment, we did pump tests, our annual pump tests on all of the pumpers, and all but one of them went through successfully. Unit 452 had a leak. When it come under pressure, one of the valves failed, so we had to stop the testing at that point. And of course, to replace the valve, you have to have parts, and it's a better part of a day's work. So he's going to come back, the technician will come back and deal with that later, and then do the pump testing once that's repaired. Unit 469 went in for an oil change today, and I have received the 2 TMR portables that we ordered, but spare batteries are on back order for some time. Batteries are getting quite difficult to get for anything. Well, that's that. Unless anybody's got any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
All right, that's easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And we're moving on to the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission Building and Planning Report. Alex.
Thank you, Your Worship. All right, so the commission planning staff are still in process of drafting the town of St. George's plan. We're getting closer to have a draft, and I believe by the next council meeting we'll have something that you'll be able to review before the meeting to have a look at and see what your feeling is about going forward with it or not. As we talked about, there is an application for an 8-unit apartment building, and council's opportunity tonight to look at doing a first reading, a referral for a view, and potentially setting a date for a public hearing. There's a planning report that is attached to that file. I'm available to speak to that if there's any questions about it. The planner who prepared it was unable to attend tonight. We will also be prepared to bring the Hillside Estates subdivision to the planning committee for a view before council has a look at approving it or not. We're looking at that, or bringing that to the committee to compare it to the subdivision bylaw to make sure it's advisable under as per the subdivision bylaw. We also have a 1-lot subdivision that is being considered by the PRAC, the planning committee, for 44 Riverview Ave, which is on a private lane. So PRAC can approve the private access and provide a recommendation to council as with regards to land for public purposes, and how you could address that in a situation where it's just a 1-lot subdivision. For development, to date, there's been 8 permits that have been issued. The total value of this new construction is $569,000, and just 1 signed permit has been issued to date. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Questions? I have just for clarification, the apartment project, which one is in the agenda?
Yeah, it would be the rezoning.
Yeah.
Yep. So that would be the Carlton and School Street corner.
So
So that would be the one that's going from residential mix to multi-unit residential.
so that's what item?
On agenda for tonight, it
Yes.
would be, we're looking at 9D and E.
9D and E. The reason for which I'm asking is everybody here is well motivated to actually get the Hillcrest subdivision cleared and going. And I know that we had a few tick marks to do. So I just want to actually, if the thing is gonna go through PRAC next week or this week?
This week, so
This week.
Thursday. Yeah.
So we may have essentially a clearing from PRAC and potentially combine with something else, we can move it to another meeting, right? In between, not the regular meeting, but have another meeting in between.
Yeah, public hearing. Yes, we'll set.
Okay. And the other thing is, just so I can understand, the Service Commission, when it does building inspections, like the one that they did in the canal,
Mm-hmm.
for the this falls under as a service to us, or it was like what triggered that inspection? I know that what you have done was absolutely required because you found a deficiency which we have paid for, and the contractor somehow would have sorted us about 2 inches of concrete. But I'm just trying to understand how these things are triggered.
Okay. So where Canal is in St. George Local Service District, they get a building inspection service through the Southwestern Brunswick Service Commission. So just because it was a structure that was built in Canal, it required a building permit for the structure, and it was a mandatory inspection just through the provincial building regulation. So it's just one of those things that can happen where there could be a set of plans and they're approved as complying with code, or they're designed by an engineer, and then what gets built on site sometimes doesn't exactly conform with what the engineer approved. And it's our responsibility to make sure that that is addressed, because what's designed is what needs to be built.
So normally you inspect every building which comes with a permit?
That's right. It's the buildings that don't currently get inspected are things like accessory buildings, like if it's let's say a small garage or shed type of structure. The only thing we're doing in that regard will be just making sure that somebody submits a site plan to say you're gonna be, this far away from a highway, or this far from a water course or a wetland, and it complies with zoning. And so we're just issuing it on that basis, and that if people don't build it where they said they would, it could relate to an enforcement action later, but we issue those on zoning compliance only. So we don't inspect them, we'll follow up if there's an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Alex. Water and sewage report. Jason.
Thank you, Your Worship. The water and wastewater report for the month of May. Average daily water consumption for May was 273,477 imperial gallons for a total of 8,477,800 imperial gallons. Well levels are good. Work on well 2 is nearly completed with electrical work and mechanical work inside half done. The problem is getting fittings to work with. The gas line was installed, the meter and heater were installed as well. Concrete work and landscaping have all been done as well. Seeding the grass is yet to be completed. Water main flushing was completed for the season on May 14th after 2 weeks, and 2 service lines were installed on Birch Lane prior to paving that street. Water was turned on to the bathrooms here at J.O. Spinney Drive, and the manhole on Carlton Street was repaired after the pulverizing crew smashed it up and filled it in. So there's just a report for results on water testing for the month of May as well. And that is the water report.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. Thank you, Jason. And we'll move on to transportation report. Jason.
Thank you, Worship. Transportation report for May. Paving is nearly completed by NRB. Limited Birch Marsh Lane were done May 31st. The rest of the streets were done June 2nd and 3rd. Locates for the job were done around the first weeks of May. The center line painter has completed their painting for the season, and they did the crosswalks as well. We have painted the parking lines on Main Street and still need to do the no parking symbols. The docks were installed at the Adventure Center, and the ones at Canal after one of them had new float put underneath of it. The ramp had to be repaired after the hinges were damaged in removal last fall. The splash pad was started up in mid-May and ready for operation for the June start. 2 picnic tables were added to the area around the pad. The lawnmower was serviced as well as trimmers, and we've been mowing since mid-May. Garbage is being dumped twice a week, and the flower baskets will go up the second week of June. Sweeping is completed for the season, and we have switched the sweeper on the sidewalk tractor to the bloom flail mower so we can start mowing some of the walkways. The 1 ton is inspected and had 2 front tires and rear shocks replaced. The 3/4 ton was also inspected and needs new rocker panels. We had to take the steps off as they are no longer able to be supported with the rocker panels. The concrete barriers from Canal are presently being stored at the vacant lot at Brunswick Street. Distance signs at the ball field have been installed, and foul poles will soon be up. Speed sign on Main Street was reset after it was pulled down. The no dump sign near well number 2 was taken with post and all. It seems that the price of lumber is the thing now to steal 5x5 signs post for building. And that is the transportation report.
Questions?
I'm just curious, how many posts are stolen?
We've got 3 posts so far this season, yeah.
I hate to ask the question again. The Mount Pleasant, we haven't received a award yet.
We've not received a letter. This is on the municipal designated highway?
Yes,
No, we've not received any official notice as of yet.
we received an official call 2 weeks ago.
Yes, to say that we were moving, that was gonna be moving forward, but nothing official from DTI as of yet.
So it's a case of the post office being very slow.
Yes.
Okay, bills paid and payable, in principle to May 31st, 2022, in the amount of $246,412.84. Jason, is there you're going to add anything before we, okay. Jan, oh, yours, the floor.
It was just about, I have a quick question. It was just about the Penfields Park improvement. Oh, you do? Yeah.
Which one was it?
It's,
Penfield Park?
yes.
Yeah, so that was monies received from the Funding Community Foundation. So we are sort of the go-between between Funding Community Foundation and sort of nonprofit groups, organizations. So money goes to us, then we distribute to them.
Okay.
They have to, any organization has to fill out a report as well once the project is done. And we sort of, there's a collaboration application that's done too. So that's what that would have been for. It's, the LSD of Penfield has some work that they're doing on the small park across from the Irving restaurant in Penfield.
Oh, I'm fine.
That was quick. Okay. If there are no more questions, I will need a motion for the approval of bills and payable in principle to May 31st, 2022 in the amount of $246,412.84.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
New business. Roads and streets, naming of the Lagoon Road. Jason.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, part of a road that's been typically, that we've identified this road a couple of years ago. It's basically a service road that we have to the lagoons and to storage that we have. It's all used primarily by Public Works, and it is a gated roadway. So the recommendation that we're putting forward to council today is to name this service road Leonard Lane, just in honor of our soon retiring head of Public Works that's been with us for a while. Sort of would be a bit of a recognition for him.
Any question? Well, then, if there are no questions, I will move. Can I move? Or you
No,
move?
you can.
Oh, I'll move that it's called Leonard Lane.
And I'll second.
it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So we have a Leonard Lane. It's gonna be Leonard Lane or Leonard Lee Lane?
Leonard Lane.
Leonard.
Okay. Okay. Item 9B, disbursement of the third-party funds, the gold trust funds, as they are well known. Jason.
Yes, Your Worship. So this is the, we've done one of these before for this year. So this would be, sorry, no, this is the first for this year. We usually do these twice a year, so this is the first one. We'd have another one that would be likely in October, November. Basically, we receive money from the Boys and Girls Club to disperse. This is the money that they raised through their Gold Rush fundraising campaign. And they earmark so much from those funds towards this region. So the town of St. George is partnered with them to be the distributor of those funds. So we've received in $6,000, and there is 8 applications that we've received in for this intake.
I would move that we give each of the 8 separate dollar,
Was 750?
750? Is that, I mean, my math is suspect, so.
Yeah,
you
it's
can correct
750.
me.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is
we all know my math is suspect, I'm just,
I have a calculator.
that's right, he's raking it out.
Okay. So you endorse the calculation?
750 would be distributed through the 8 applicants.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Okay, and if there are no questions, I will move that to put to the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We move to item amendment, an amendment to the human resource policy regarding kilometric allowance. Jason?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just a little background on this. There's been a lot of discussion within kilometer allowance, so this would be the first time that we're looking at any type of changes to the kilometer allowance. The one we had was updated from the G&B, the Government of New Brunswick rate of 2012, and they updated it, I believe, in 2017. So what's being proposed tonight is to match the kilometer allowance to that of the Regional Service Commission. They just recently have gone through a bit of a review of their own kilometer allowance. So for example, anything that is basically up to 8,000 kilometers per year goes from 41 cents to 50 cents. So once again, this would be matching the Service Commission's what they put forward. After that, anything over 8,000 kilometers, it'd be 47 cents, and for each kilometer in excess of 16,000 per year, it's 42 cents. So this will just be an update to a policy. It's under our human resource policy. Be updating that. We seldomly use it. It is used once in a while for any conventions, and if there's any additional traveling that has to happen. But it's not heavily used for the town. But more or less, it's just bringing us online with the Service Commission.
I have a question. How does that compare with the provincial rate?
It still hasn't changed yet with the province.
The
The province
province
is
hasn't
still,
changed.
yes, yeah. It's been a discussion item amongst a number of municipalities over the last month or so. And a lot of them are following pretty much the same as the Regional Service Commission here. So.
Okay, so we have information from the CEO about the change in the human resource policy with regards to kilometric allowance. Anybody has a question?
I have one, just one. When I Googled this afternoon in regards to the kilometers, I noticed that the municipal allowance that has been changed, we're just off by a penny here and there. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't go with the GMB recommendations that was effective May 1st, 2022. And it basically, rather than the 47 cents, it's 46 cents. And rather than 42 cents, it's 40 cents. I'm wondering, I don't know if this is accurate because it was found on the internet, so you never know. But I think we should stay in line with what the government is approved already, rather than just.
Service Commission?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're using the Service Commission one, I guess.
I think that's what this is, though. I think that's what this one is. It's the gnb.ca.
Yeah, that would be from the province. I don't think they've completely passed that. They may have passed that since we started looking at this, but the one that's in front of council tonight would be from the Service Commission, the Southwest Service Commission.
Oh, I see, okay.
So that's the one we'd be using. I think, perhaps the province has just more recently just changed theirs. It's been a while coming, so.
So we'll be pretty well online then with them.
Right.
Okay.
Things that, that are sometimes not looked at, and the past with the G&B allowance is, just basic wear and tear on vehicles that's there. Sometimes that's not really brought in. And I guess, that's one thing we did see with the Service Commission. They did, there's lots of discussion, as people can see if they go back looking at minutes with their board board minutes. There's lots of discussion on the matter, so I felt that it was one that there's lots of thought that was put into it.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Well, if there are no more questions, I will need a motion.
And I'll
see you right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to item 9D, resolution, cancel first reading by title only, bylaw 25B 2203, an amendment to zoning bylaw 25B. And who wants to introduce it? You or Alex? You? Okay.
Yeah, I can certainly introduce your worship. So this is the, this would be for changing the zoning on the vacant lot at the corner of Carlton and School Street. So as discussed earlier, there is I guess a proposal or a plan to be that's being put forward to put an eight unit apartment building there. So currently it is zoned as residential mix, and it would be moving towards an R3, a multiple unit residential, so an apartment building coding. I'm not sure Alex wants to add anything more with that, but it's a fairly straightforward rezoning. It's pretty typical of that we would see with an apartment building.
Alex has something to say?
I could just add a couple things here too. So yeah, as Jason said, this would be a proposal which would require rezoning of the land. In doing so, council has an opportunity to look at how this development fits within the current municipal plan. And in the plan report that's attached, it gives you a couple criteria to think about. The policy of the municipal plan was to look at things like parking areas, to making sure there was adequate buffers between it and surrounding properties, making sure that the municipal services were adequate. So one of the things which planning staff is going to recommend to council before it considers approving this development would be to enter into a development agreement with the developer to address a couple of these matters. So if you see in the proposal, there's a site plan that comes with it, and they've identified some things like some landscaping and some amenity areas which work toward making the development attractive and compatible with its surroundings. The way you ensure that that gets built, as they've shown you, is to put it into a development agreement. And this is pretty standard under the Community Planning Act. My apologies. Pretty standard when you get a development requiring rezoning, and there's especially an infill site where you've got lots of people living around it already. So yeah, so a number of things could be considered in that. When you go to the public hearing as well, you may hear some people who have different views about it, and if there's things that are really worth consideration by council, you can also bring that into that discussion with the developer. But overall, it's a solid proposal. There's one aspect here that's identified with regard to a variance that would be needed with one of the side yard setbacks. So that would have to be addressed at a later stage through the planning committee as an adjustment to the zoning bylaw, but council's aware of it. That is definitely a mark in its favor for the variance to be approved, because council would have to approve this first before it be referred to the planning committee. And there is another matter related to an easement on the property that would have to be addressed. It's a private matter, so it's not something the municipality is regulating or not, but there was something related to an easement on one of the PIDs related to a driveway. So the applicant's aware of that, and they're towards rectifying that before this gets all finalized and built. Otherwise, I think that's pretty straightforward. We've been in discussions with the developer in terms of later stages as to what kind of requirements would be related to accessibility, and we were talking about that and some of the requirements under the the National Building Code. And yeah, no, I think that more or less covers it from a high level. If there's anything specific we wanted to talk about,
Really just what we need to do is move towards the rezoning first, and that starts the ball rolling when it goes to, we've got other parts in the agenda tonight to ask for the pracs review as well and do the public the public hearing. So then that's when much of what Alex was saying will start to come forward, and we can resolve it through development agreements.
Just so I can understand, the issues that you are identifying, like having a development plan, if we're gonna go to a hearing, the development plan is by itself a constraint or a condition on the development, right?
Yep.
So that is part of the bylaw, or it is like, how you capture that?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So if you're gonna go to 3 readings of the bylaw, which amends your zoning bylaw to allow for this development, what ends up happening is we would, before 3rd reading happens, we would put together a draft development agreement with the town CAO, and we would have something in the works, not finalized. But when you go to 3rd reading, you would list your terms and conditions, and you can do that by resolution, or you can do it with just a general, we will enter into a development agreement to attend to the following matters. When that development agreement is signed, then it makes the bylaw take effect. If you make your 3rd reading, it's contingent on the development agreement being signed.
Okay.
And that's the way the Community Planning Act works, so you can make sure that these are above and beyond like zoning criteria. It's specific to the property.
Okay, thank you. That's
Development agreement would be provided to council, probably at the time of the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So council would have a copy of that as well.
I don't have any other question. So can I have a motion for?
So this will just be, so now we can move on to, we've done the introduction part of this, so we can just move on to the first reading.
So by that law only first reading, yeah, that's what.
Yep.
We have
So
to have
if you wish
so
to-
we have to have like a vote, right?
So with first reading, I can certainly, if you wish, I can read, it's by title only,
Yeah.
if you wish. Okay,
And we need to vote, right?
that's correct. Yep.
Yes, yes,
So this is first reading, it's bylaw number 25-B, 2022-03, bylaw to amend bylaw number 25-B, being a zoning bylaw for the town of St. George.
motion to approve first reading.
I'll make the motion that we do the bylaw number 25-B-2022-03.
On in favor, second?
I'll second it.
On in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the next amendment of the zoning bylaw is item E, resolution of council on second reading in its entirety, bylaw 25B, 2203, and amendment of the zoning bylaw 25B. Jason.
Your worship, so bylaw number 25-B, 2022-03, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 25-B, being zoning bylaw for the town of St. George, be it enacted by the council of the town of St. George as follows. Bylaw number 25-B, the zoning bylaw for the town of St. George is amended by changing the zone as following on the zoning map attached to the said bylaw as Scheduled A. Therefore, the land shown on Schedule 1 attached hereto and form part hereof from R2 residential mix zone to R3 multi-unit residential zone.
Anybody have a question? So can I have a motion? We have to vote for the second reading, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so can I have a motion for the second reading?
I make the motion to go for the second reading of bylaw 25-B-2022-03.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are moving on to item 9F. It's a resolution to seek the PRAC's views on the proposed rezoning of parcel of land at School in Carlton from R2 to R3, from residential mix to multiple unit residential. Jason.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this just need a motion of council to put the request through to PRAC for their reviews of this amendment.
Anybody has a question? So, can I have a motion for the resolution?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And move on to item 9G, resolution to set a date for a public hearing of objections on the proposed rezoning of parcel at the corner of School and Carlton from R2 to R3. We need a date. Jason, do you have any input?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've done that at 6:30, just usually half an hour before the regular meeting. So that would be July the 11th at 6:30.
So July the 11th at 6:30. Okay. So I need a motion for setting up a public hearing for that rezoning at July 11th, 6:30.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we're moving on to item 9H, a request from Quad MP on proposed St. George route. Jason.
Thank you, Worship. So we've to have a specific route through town. Their interest is to get from the tunnel out towards the end of Main Street. So they want to go from the tunnel, go on Main Street along the edge of Main Street to the side, proceed towards Chapel Corner or the corner of Main and Riverview, and then head north on Riverview to a location just over the knoll where the former rail line would come out, and then they would get on that former rail line and use the trail from there. So Quad NB is looking to use have a designated trail through town. I think that we can either I think probably might be a good idea to set up maybe a public hearing date or a public meeting. We can certainly bring the Quad NB in to sort of display what their desired route is, and we have been chatting with them on what would a bylaw for that look like. Other committees have done this. I think Salisbury is currently in that study right now, but it would be setting up sort of a public meeting date. So Quad can come in, the town can certainly be here to ask questions, and if there's any residents in those areas that would as well like to sort of voice their concern or questions, they can certainly have that opportunity at that time to do. This would be sort of a preliminary lead up to any type of bylaw being passed. We'd have to do 3 readings and another public hearing, but this would be like a preliminary public hearing, more or less to gauge the interest of residents. I have spoken to Quad NB. They certainly would be open to doing that and coming here to Pride of Macadamic and having a meeting and displaying what they would like to achieve. They're trying to come through town. Answer any questions. Take my
The route that proposed from the tunnel there, but there is also the reverse one. It's not one way, right?
Correct. It would be one way and then coming back the same.
They're coming back, so it's on both sides. My only interest in having that information essentially allow us to gauge the community reaction before we schedule a hearing is to make sure that the people who are affected, who may be affected, directly affected, have an opportunity to know that there is such a thing. Because a lot of things are happening, and people in general don't follow what's happening in town every day. So maybe we need to do something like there may be like about 50 houses involved in this whole.
Correct.
We have to actually canvass them and say, we are doing that. If you want to actually come and hear, listen, and give some feedback, come.
Correct.
So, do you have any idea when you want to do that?
I think we would try to do something before the next council meeting, at least.
Before the next council meeting.
Next council meeting. But we can certainly be open to any suggestions if maybe council would like to see it, maybe more in the summertime.
Yeah.
It should be sooner than later.
Yeah,
That's right.
we've been working on this for a
Because
while.
people go on vacation, you don't know who's gonna be around. I would prefer it before the end of,
So,
Before the end of this month.
so we have 2 weeks?
Well, this is the 13th of June. Sometime between now and the 30th of June.
So, Jason, can you undertake to actually make an official notification to people and just,
Correct.
Throw the
I can
word
look
out.
at, what, like, some availability as well, council's availability, just to see what we come up with some dates. Maybe something like a June the 29th, be like
Okay.
a Wednesday, like an evening. So we can certainly try to check on some schedules of everyone, and then once we firm up a date, then certainly announce it, and as well as the mayor has said, that maybe door-to-door flyers as well, advising these.
yes,
residents.
there may be like 50 or maximum 100 houses which are directly involved or may have a direct interest. So I think we should actually make an effort to make sure that they know this is going to happen. Okay, so you're going to follow up on that one.
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing to vote at this point. We're going to wait for a proposal, and we're going to set up a meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, just to be clear, we're gonna give a personal invite to the individuals who are directly affected by the ATV route.
Correct, yes.
And the proposed date would be the 29th.
That's what
Yeah,
But
proposed.
not just the people who affect, because there might be other people in town who would like to comment, you know what I mean?
No, I understand that, but I'm just talking about the direct. I think the whole community should know for
Yes,
sure,
exactly.
but in terms of the people that are directly affected, they should get a personal invite.
correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They will get it, if it's myself, will ensure that everyone that's on that route, gets at least a flyer to say that the date of the event and what's going on.
Okay. Item 10, all business, none, right? Okay. 11, correspondence, letters, invitations, if any. Any correspondence?
Nothing as of today. We have some correspondence that came in today that will be for the July meeting, but nothing as of today.
Okay. I just want to mention, it does not need to be discussed today, just as an information, we have one of the residents who is interested to make sure that the history of St. George remains after the municipality shuts down, and he wants to actually, so that is something that we may actually bring in the next meeting, after we have some more information about what we can do about it. This is about how things like the insignia of the town or the logo that Chris helped develop there, how it can be used for t-shirts or whatever, people to actually maintain the memory of the town after the town shuts off as a municipality. Okay, I'm moving on to item 13, statements by members of council.
Well, there might be a public presentation from Sean.
Oh, Sean, I'm sorry, I'm not the one who actually cut you off. So you have a,
He's the only public person.
yeah, the public. Okay, so the public declined. So, statements by members of council. I'm going to start from the right.
okay, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to music night. It was entertaining, the girls were great. First night, there was about 80 people here, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and it's nice to see people out again and enjoying the music. I also would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Seeley for planting all the flowers down coming in the Macadavid Center. They did a lovely job. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I've got a few things to say,
Sam.
so I'm gonna go over there, because I don't want her, she can't hear.
Okay.
She didn't want to
You can't hear.
In regards to council that was formed last May, it takes some time to get moving. And in December, we were given a pink notice slip that we will be done at the end of this year. It's sometimes hard to function as a council, as it takes probably about a year to get moving. And it takes, we've been very gingerly moving along, and as some would say, we were maybe quite stagnant or very not moving at all. There's been several things that have taken place, if you've noticed tonight, we were waiting to hear back from, and we've kind of been just laying on those, hoping to get positive results. That hasn't come yet. This stuff has been since last fall. We're not moving along the way we should, but we're moving along very cautiously. That said, I'm pretty pleased the way things are going at this point. The community center was an issue some time ago here, and I'm very pleased that the council made the decision they did to supply this building for the public to use as they see fit to do so.
Here, here.
I've recently seen a very good turnout on a couple of events that have been here, and I'm very pleased that the council made that decision. This building was put here for the use of the public, of the area all around us. And I have no issue with the people using this facility. I'm glad it's being used to all. Now, the Transitional Advisory Committee, I am on that committee along with Mayor Dadarakis, and there are 2 other members of all the LSDs and 2 from the village of Black Harbor. Do you have any questions? Because what you know is there's no rumors. This is what's happening as you see it. There's one thing in there that maybe council isn't aware of. As we were moving forward, there's a little line in there that says we should not absorb any more debt to our community as we move forward unless the CAO or the government, they both must approve any debt moving forward. The council may not have been aware of that, but we have not borrowed money against the citizens of this town to move forward. The debt that we have is going to be our debt moving forward, and it's been made clear the debt of the village and the town are going to move forward with the people as we move forward to have that paid off. We're going to be the ones paying. Nobody else is going to pay for it. That's just the way it's going to be. There's several big projects. Our water and sewage in the lagoon is one of them. There's been a big expansion and nothing's moved in that area. I'm a little concerned is just how things are going to move as we go forward with that. So the Transition Committee has a job to do. It's a go-between the public and the government. We give suggestions, we don't give direction. A little bit of advice, that's about it. There are some very knowledgeable people on that committee that have served on the LSDs for a long period of time. Not everybody's happy the way things are going, but it's going. Not the way we want, can't control it. Now, I'm going to go on to amalgamation for a minute. You haven't heard me say much about amalgamation. I'm not for it. Sustainable and vibrant communities. I've lived in my town all my lifetime. I've seen vibrant. Yes, we're not like we used to be. We now have Amazon right to your door. Very easy. The brick and mortar buildings are somewhat of the past. Beautification is one thing you can do. Housing is one of the other issues. But moving forward, it's going to be very hard to do that as we are structured as a rural community. That is going to be a step back for us, the way we do things. I was meant to ask Alex that question. In the land usage, is it easier for the town the way we do it, or a rural community way? Is ours more structured, more evenly flow?
So, if I could, rural communities do their own planning as well, but it is different in some ways. So, for example, you're not going to have a municipal plan going forward. The one that we're working on potentially could be the last municipal plan that's ever done. It would be a rural plan. So rural plans are a little different in that they typically aren't as focused on things like capital budgets and so on and so forth. It'll be interesting to combine the different communities in time into one plan, one rural plan that covers the differences between Black Harbor, St. George, Penfield, Back Bay. So we're gonna be doing some work when that comes. months' time to do that. But it's still gonna be ultimately the decision of council to adopt that document or not, and make changes to it. It's not that different from what you got today. It's just that the type of plan it is they're typically not as detailed as municipal plans. So, doesn't mean you can't do certain things, but it's quite, how would you say this? A municipal plan is really designed for a community that's significantly reliant on municipal services. Rural plans are typically oriented toward communities that do not have services. So we're gonna have to figure out how to do that kind of hybrid thing with your new rural plan. And that won't have to happen until January 1st, 2028. So there's some time to figure it out, and I imagine between now and then, there will be probably some changes even to Community Planning Act and so forth, but, yeah. It's hard to really get down to the specifics, and there's still a lot of questions I have too. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. I was kind of wondering about that, just how that was going to work. And now as we move forward, for 118 years, this town and the people have made the decisions how things work here. That will be done in 2023. The government says you will have a vote. St. George will have 1 vote, maybe 2. Your future will be in somebody else's hands. Your history will be gone. As far as I'm concerned, it'll be gone. It's nowhere near what we had. We will not be. We are self-reliant. We make our decisions. We live with them. We live within the confines of our money. It's just that simple. Deputy Mayor Rayner can tell you. We were in Black Arbor one day. The deputy minister was there. The MLA was there. I asked one question, and I've never got an answer yet, and I will not get an answer to that question. The tax base of the town of St. George is in excess of $150 million. That got there through good governance of the previous mayor, councilors of this history of our town. Granted, we haven't done a whole lot. We're just on the tail end, but we're doing the best we can with what we have. For 118 years, that's a lot of history. And now we're going to be governed by somebody else in a different format, for sure. Whereas, we still have a works crew. We're still going to do some of our work. Some of the parameters of the way we do things are going to be a little different, for sure. And how our tax base is going to be decided, I don't know. Because that $150 million is how we decide how much money it costs to run this town. If we share that wealth as everybody, and I'm not against that, how are we going to function? How are we going to run things the way we do? We know how much money it costs to run the town. We know it. We have one of the larger tax bases. Through good planning, our community has grown somewhat over the years, and maybe the LSD areas have made that possible for the village and the town to be that way, or vice versa. Maybe that's why their communities have grown a little bit and ours have kind of grown away a little bit. You know, going forward, there's going to be some changes. I don't know if they're all going to be for the good. I hope, you know, sustainability. I see our taxes, I hope where they are, but I can't say somebody else's isn't going to go up. But I never got the answer. The $150 million is how we get our money to run our town. If we share that, where's our money going to come from? Or are some services going to be lowered a little bit? There are some things that we won't be responsible for. Simple things as a fire station. Won't be our problem, rural community. Whereas, like the roads are done by the DTI does the outside roads. We're still going to do ours somewhat, but I'm not pretty sure how that's going to work money-wise. I was going to figure out. You know, it's just a couple of thoughts I had there. Something to think about. You know, we got to move along. We've got about 4 months production time to do anything. I'm pretty pleased the council has not jumped in and bored a lot of money, because the people that are left here are going to pay the debt. It's just that simple over a period of time. Our biggest debt is probably our water tower. And that is coming from the water and sewage utility users. We'll pay for that and probably till the end. The rest of our debt is in pretty fair shape, I would say. I've talked to Jason a few times, and I watch the budget fairly close month to month, and he'll tell you that. There's a few things there that I kind of watch. There's a few things that are, you know, a little iffy. We have to be very prudent with our money, and I think council has done a fairly good job in doing that. As we move forward, we did get some paving done. We've been a little slow on the draw, I'll admit that. I'll admit the mayor's passion for some things are his passion, I'll give him that. Certainly appreciate, you know, sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult for us to kind of focus on certain areas, but, you know, he's well-meaning to what he may be thinking how we should do things. And it's kind of put us off track a little bit. Some people don't like that. Sometimes you have to discuss things to move along. So that's about all I have to say tonight. And maybe in a couple of months I'll talk to you again.
Thank you very much, Sam. That was very good and very much needed. And, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Councilor Nancy.
I don't know if I can follow that or
Oh,
not.
you can do it. I got faith in you.
Thank you, Sam. Some of the things that you said, I totally agree with you. And Mr. Mayor, we'll straighten you out after a bit there. We'll make sure you go the straight and narrow. No, it has been a pleasure working with council, and as Sam says, it's a learning experience. I came into this wet and green behind the ears and a babe. And now I'm an old girl, probably the oldest here on the council, and I have to keep him in line, so there we go. But I just want to say thank you to everybody and to tell you that we are diligently working, contrary to popular belief, for our family fun days. We have something going on every night of the week, with the exception of Wednesday night. We have a dinner Wednesday, but Wednesday night's our rain night for our movie. Just quickly to run down, Monday, we have a movie night. We have paint and sip. No, that's Tuesday, sorry. What's Monday afternoon?
Strawberry.
Strawberry social. See, even I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm supposed to be organized the thing. Then Tuesday, paint and sip. Tuesday night, we have the string quartet from St. John coming down. That's just been confirmed today. Wednesday, the Fab Five's putting on a supper. Thursday, we have Brenda's Music Night. Friday, we have the Mike Chase Band down at the Day Adventure Center. Put your dancing shoes on. We've got food trucks. Saturday, we have multicultural. We have bouncy castles. Yes, gentlemen and ladies and kids of all ages, we have bouncy castles. We're going to have foam machines, paint your face, and this old counselor here is going to get her face painted. Anyway, we have... And the Little People's Parade, we had Soapbox Derby, we have Floggy Dogs, and then right now it doesn't look like we're going to be able to have a parade on Sunday afternoon because our people, Chris, you can confirm, you've only had 3 people say they wanted to put a float in the parade. So due to lack of participation, we're going to have a musical event on Sunday afternoon. The Ballisto, and correct me if I mispronounce their name, Steel Band, the Caledonian Pipe and Drum Band, and a few other things going on Sunday afternoon. Sunday night is the Memorial Lanterns, which they're going to float down the river, and hopefully they won't catch a fire like last year. And basically, we want volunteers, come and help us. And I'll shut up now.
No, you don't have to say that. Thank you. Let's start from that side.
Well, Sam, that's a hard act to follow.
I know. Absolutely.
But it's funny because I had wanted to make a comment in regards to the use of this community facility. I had driven by on several occasions and, saw the parking lot filled, the lights are on. So I know that the people of St. George love their community center and are starting to use it a lot more. And that was why it was built. That was its primary intention. And I'm really pleased to see that now is happening again. Other than that, yeah, it's good. I mean, we're looking forward to our family fun days, and Nancy's doing an absolutely fabulous job getting it organized. And that's about all for now.
Thank you. Councilor Darks.
Thank you, Councillor Rubin, first of all. I want to give a special shout out to Leonard Lee, who, as Jason mentioned, is retiring this month and has been with the town since 1986, which is longer than I've been alive. That speaks volumes to his professionalism and to his character. and I want to wish him a happy retirement. The second thing I want to mention is that this Saturday we are going to be having a Pride March here in St. George. I believe it's going to be starting at 11 a.m. and it'll be finishing off at the Eagle's Nest. And I think this is actually the first time something like this has ever been held in St. George, but also in eastern Charlotte County, so we should be very happy about this. And when we talk about population growth and inclusivity, this is one of the ways that we can achieve this. So I'm going to be there. I believe Deputy Mayor is going to be there as well, and the mayor, and I'm looking forward to everyone being there.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Sam for what he said, and I concur with almost everything you said. Just wanted to mention our first Ukrainians arrived this last week, and several of us attended an orientation, and we presented gifts to the children, and it was the very first one had us all in tears. Anyway, it was really nice to see them, and we want to make them welcome, and we hope to have another fundraiser down the road. And those of us that came Saturday night to the Filipino Heritage celebration had a wonderful time. Never eaten so much in my life, and I just think we are so lucky to have these people in our community. It was a wonderful night, and I want to thank them for inviting us, and I hope we get invited next year too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I do want to actually, I guess, say that I'm speechless with what I heard from Councillor Rubin. Councillor Rubin brings the pedigree of St. George with him in his genes, so his opinion has a particular weight on the present and the future of this town. And he's one of the councillors who, I believe, he's the most focused on money, the budget. I believe he has been there from the day. So I have to give him credit for that, and I have to thank him for that. Okay? I do share his concerns about what's happening as we go forward, about the fact that amalgamation for a little bit different than what everybody thinks about amalgamation, where a town expands outwards and tries to bring more people within its municipal structure. This is a case on which a town, a municipality, a system of water and sewer and sidewalks and all the rest is kind of a dissolving a new governance of a rural community. How this thing is going to pan out, we are not sure. We don't have the answer to that one. So I cannot add anything more to what Sam said. I will need to endorse something that everybody said about this center here, because it has been one of the most friction-generating initiative of this council, which this council came united, totally united. No light went through individuals about the need to return it to our community. And I had the privilege yesterday or this weekend to attend a Filipino cultural event that happened here. And I was overwhelmed by the attendance, by the community spirit. I mean, that alone by itself is an example of how much this event of returning the center to the community, how much should be recognized as a major achievement for this council. I don't have anything to say. I mean, some say they all. So, I need Sam to actually move.
You want me to move to adjourn the meeting? I will so do.
Thank you all for coming.